What's up, guys? Long time no see. After I finished editing my last video on my trigeminal schwannoma and preparing for the craniotomy, I realized I didn't actually touch on any preparation for the day or two before the operation, which is like the most exciting time for preparation, if you will. So I thought I would do a short little video on that, even though I didn't journal about it and don't recall a whole lot of it. My memory's not great, what can I say? So the couple of days before the operation, maybe even a week or two before the operation, I was instructed to stop taking certain supplements that I was on. I had been taking a lot of different vitamins, including iron, because I deal with anemia. That was probably one of the ones that I was instructed to stop taking. Aside from that, I was mostly okay to take my medications up and to the day of the operation, but that's going to be different for everybody. It might be different from doctor to doctor, depending on your medication, depending on your medical situation in general. So make sure you're upfront with your doctor about all of your different supplements and medications that could have a big impact on maybe anesthesia and stuff like that. I was also instructed to fast for a set period of time. I believe it was only like 12 to 24 hours, no food, no water, aside from the water that I would consume while taking my medication. Honestly, it really wasn't that bad. A couple of years before that, I had had a colonoscopy, and the fasting period for that was way worse than the fasting period before my craniotomy. So if you've had other medical issues before, this is probably nothing new to you. As far as getting to the hospital the day of is concerned, I had to be there really early in the morning, and I had somebody else drive me there. If you can't have somebody else drive you there, like you don't have a family member or a friend who's available that day, I do recommend you get a lift or something if you can, just because there's no guaranteeing that you'll be able to drive yourself back after the operation. I had double vision after my surgery. It ended up clearing up in a couple of weeks, but I wouldn't have been able to drive myself back home. So don't want to leave your car there and have to pay $5 bajillion for whatever parking ticket you end up receiving. Once I was there, my designated visitor was able to stay with me for quite a bit of time. We had an initial check-in, go up to the desk, check in. Then they took me back to a room where they took my vitals and talked over some procedures with me, made sure I hadn't consumed alcohol or weed or whatever in the past certain period of time. This, I believe, was largely for anesthesiology. I got to meet my anesthesiologist, I think is what they're called, and he kind of went over some stuff with me. But it was nice being able to kind of go over that process. If you have consumed any sort of drug or alcohol, make sure that you let the person doing your anesthesia know about that, because that can impact how effective the anesthesia is, how much is needed, and this is not something that you want to wake up in the middle of. Not to stoke any fear or anything, that did not happen to me, and I don't think it's something that happens regularly, but still, just like be upfront with all of your doctors about this stuff, because it could impact how things are done and how effective things are. While they were doing the intake and taking my vitals and talking to the anesthesiologist, my designated visitor was allowed to be with me, and I was able to have somebody else in with a video call. So if there are people who want to be there but can't be there physically, you can talk to your doctor and nurse about potentially phoning them in, just so you have a little extra support if you would like. I don't remember a whole lot of details, but I know that they put the needle in my arm that would later be used for anesthesia. I think they did that while they were doing general intake and vitals, but it had like a flimsy, flexible inside, so if I accidentally bent my arm or something, not thinking about it, it wasn't going to completely destroy my arm or anything like that. Once I was done with the intake, I believe they had me get in a wheelchair, and a nurse pushed me to the operation room. There might have been another step in between those, but I do remember pretty much once I got in the wheelchair, I had to separate from my visitors, and I didn't have my phone on me on the operating table or anything like that. So the nurse pushed me into the operating room, and I definitely was talking about Star Trek on the little ride over there. I wasn't on any drugs or anything. I'm just a nerd. That's it. Once I was in the operating room, they had me get up on the operating table. I was lying down. I had to turn my head to the right because they had to go in through the left, so they needed to have access. And then they put in the anesthesia and had me count back from 10 or 100 or something. I don't know. I was out pretty quickly. But it was a pretty stress-free situation. I mean, all considering, how stress-free can it be? But I think the fact that I was already kind of familiar with the medical system took out a lot of stress. So hopefully hearing some of this can help alleviate some of the stress. Hopefully having somebody with you can help alleviate some of that stress as well. Just keep an open mind, because every hospital is going to have different procedures. There's a chance that your designated visitor or visitors will be able to visit you immediately after your procedure. My procedure took a couple extra hours, and since they were really kind of strict about visiting hours during COVID, my visitor wasn't able to visit me until the next day. But that's something that you can let your visitor know and ask about beforehand as well. And that's pretty much all I have for day before and day of. Once you're in the operating room, that's it. I mean, you'll wake up in the hospital and you'll have to suffer through all the hospital food. They might have a specific diet for you. If you're already on a specific diet, they will accommodate you if you're like a vegetarian or dairy-free. If you are struggling with meat, because I remember one of the first things that I got was like steak or something like that. It was really hard for me to chew. They're not going to give you like a perfect medium rare steak or anything like that. So just make sure that if you are having troubles eating anything, you let your nurses know, and they might be able to help you with like softer options for you. Maybe you'll just have to eat Jell-O for a little bit. But yeah, it was pretty, easy, I guess. I didn't really know what to expect after the procedure, but there were, if I needed anything, there were always people there. I was able to have my visitor whenever, and you're probably going to be able to have more visitors, and the time frame for visitors might be a little bit more flexible for you as well. And your visitors can probably bring you some non-hospital food as well. So no offense to the staff in the hospital kitchens, but sometimes a nice slushie from 7-Eleven is all you need to get you by. So yeah, hopefully that helps alleviate any anxieties you may have. I hope you have a swift recovery, and I hope you're able to get some primo quality hospital steak and you're able to chew it just fine.